all of you who are here to listen to me today.
Good afternoon, sir.
My name is Ganeshan. I speak Tamil, that's my mother tongue. It's not Tamil. And I speak only about 10 languages. I'm a professor of German. I worked at the Central Institute of English and Foreign Languages, which is called now the English and Foreign Languages University. It's in Hyderabad. I worked there for about 32 years. And since 2007, I'm living in Atlanta in the US. And I'm teaching there German and Hindi at 3 universities I've been teaching. Once a year, I come to India, be here for 6 months, give some lectures, then I get back. So that's a short introduction. If you want to know more about me, send me an email. I'll send you my entire biodata. So first of all, I would like to thank Nishu Sinha, who took the initiative of inviting me here. And I also thank all the so-called higher authorities of the Amity University who gracefully agreed to her suggestion. The topic is power of language and its impact on women. First of all, I'll tell you what I'm not going to do. I'm not going to offer you a very, very confusing theory, and at the end of which, you won't know what I said, and I also will not know what I said. So I'm going to keep it very simple in a simple language, and I'm addressing basically the students, and particularly the lady students who will be building up their career in life. And therefore, my apologies to all my colleagues, the so-called scholars and academics, who may find this talk not very scholarly. I'm down to earth and I want to talk to the students. What I'm not going to do is also, I'm not going to offer you any PowerPoint. I was asked, what do you want to share? I said, I want to share my thoughts. That's all. I am a old style teacher. I have enough self-confidence, I have enough knowledge, and I have my Google in my head, not only in the laptop, and I have enough power in me to make my point, so I don't need a PowerPoint. I want you to listen to me carefully. There's a big talk going on nowadays about empowerment of women. And it is in this context, I think this topic is relevant. Start with a small story. I went to a university in North India, which is exclusively for women. I went to give a lecture at the sociology department, something on women and language. And the head of the department, sociology, she proudly told me she is also in charge of the women's studies, department in that university. So I gave my talk, and after the talk, we were sitting having some tea and eating samosas, as we always do. And around 5:30, this lady, who is head of the Department of Sociology and who is also taking care of women's studies at that university, she stood up and smiled at me and said, "Sir, excuse me, you'll have to excuse me, I have to go home now because my husband will come at 6 o'clock, I have to make tea for him." You think about this story. What qualifies me to talk about women and language? I always had the best communication with all the women in my life. I had the best communication with my mother, with my sisters, with my wife, with both my daughters, with all my lady relatives, all my lady teachers, and also lady students. Actually, on the day of Raksha Bandhan, I put a special message for all the ladies telling them, I thank all the ladies in my life who never tried to tie a Rakhi on my hand. Now let's go to the topic. Language is a powerful tool which we all use in our interaction with all other human beings. Am I able to speak powerfully? Is speaking powerfully about is being male or female? Is there any power in politeness? How can I speak more powerfully, not only in English, but in any language I speak? How do I put forward my opinion? By being a little assertive, if the situation wants it, but not being aggressive. These are the kind of questions each one of us has to ask ourselves when we talk about using the language, the power of language. We should not forget that the language has a power over us. The language conditions our thinking, it conditions our actions. We associate this power as strength in vocabulary or grammar. However, it goes much deeper than that. Both women and men experience blockages and insecurities from speaking in public, leading discussions, or even in the international business conversations. This is especially true if we use a language which is not our native language, which is a foreign language. Powerful language comes from saying the right thing at the right time. Powerful language also comes from not saying the wrong thing at the wrong time. Language is a tool that creates our social world and our actions. If we learn the power from amplifying our language skills, then leading discussions, taking decisions, talking assertively, and building up our own status will happen more naturally. Whoever speaks controls. That is what is important. And whoever is listening is at the receiving end. We negotiate power all the time, whether we want it or not. On the surface, words don't necessarily share the intention and position of what you're really saying. In all our conversations and group activities, we keep on learning how to speak our mind, how to turn arguments into discussions, and how to bring tools of power into our language. Complexity of language varies between cultures and genders. However, language power comes primarily from self-confidence. People who ask good questions have power. People who can give good answers have power. Men and women differ in their use of questions in conversations. For men, a question is usually a genuine request for information, whereas with women, it can often be a rhetorical means of acquiring attention from others conversationally involved. Men and women communicate differently. That is something we have to accept. The fact is, men and women communicate differently. Although men and women speak the same language, there are differences in priorities, perceptions, internal processing, and behavior patterns. Therefore, it's easy to misunderstand, misinterpret, or simply not get where the other is coming from. To increase your ability to persuade, motivate, influence, get along, you must understand the gender communication rules or gender codes for how men and women communicate. This in turn will help us to build up a mutual rapport, and relationships can be better and we can connect better with each other. While gender differences may have been widely researched and certain behaviors observed and labeled, it's never ever appropriate to generalize or stereotype. Every person is an individual and the characteristics for men and women will vary depending on the person. So we can't simply say all men talk like this, all women talk like this. There may be some men who also partly talk like a woman. There are also women who partly talk like a man. After all, we are a country which has the proud concept of Ardhanarishwar. There are different behavioral patterns when it comes to gender and communication. In general terms, men think of communication as a fairly straightforward, cut and dry task that involves clear motives. In other words, they tell it like they see it. Women, on the other hand, tend to be more cautious about saying directly what they are thinking and often use both verbal and non-verbal tactics to secretly garner clues about the information they want. I'm not passing a value judgment. I'm stating facts. Why is that there are these striking differences, and are there any ways in which men and women communicate similar? How does the body language, the non-verbal language, play a role in conveying emotions, ideas, wants, and needs? I would like to make some overall observations of differences between men and women. Understanding these differences can assist us in continuing to build and maintain better relationships. As the ancient hunters and gatherers, men were often put in the position of competition. They were competing against nature while trying to hunt and capture dinner for the family. They were competing against one another for tribal status and mates. Winning, whether in a fight against an animal or a fellow tribesman, meant staying alive. Women, on the other hand, were often put into a position of cooperation as family caretakers. They would band together to help with their child care and other domestic duties. For women, avoiding fights meant staying alive. The history still affects us today. Men are competitive and hierarchical. They establish rank and status, but women look for similarities and value cooperation. Gender communication differences begin during their childhood. Girls are told to use their manners, play quietly, and be ladylike. However, it's okay for the boys to use a rough language. They can play loudly and they can be aggressive. This is how we condition our boys and girls in the Indian families. Girls are allowed to show feelings. For example, if a small girl scrapes her knee and starts to cry, people are sympathetic and she is nurtured. The boy has the same minor injury, he is told not to cry and be tough because he's a man. Hence, girls develop a relational style of interaction, whereas boys develop a competitive style of interaction. They have to all the time show, hum kisi se kam nahi. Whereas the girl has to all the time show, my huna. This kind of upbringing influences the behavior of both men and women later on once they become adults. Men view conversation as a means to exchange information and problem solving. Men stay away from personal topics and discuss events, sports, news, politics, and facts. They tell more stories and jokes than women as a way to show status and power, and also how humorous they can be. Men are direct, blunt, and speech includes slang or also swear words. Women generally tend to be polite and soft-spoken and demonstrate their authority in the same way, but with a little bit of discipline and straight face. They avoid direct and threatening communication. If you look at a typical Indian family, the man always thinks he's the head of the family. He thinks he's powerful, and the woman, the lady, depends on him. But in reality, the Indian woman is much more cleverer than any of the European or American feminists. She has the Shakti, she has the power, but she is clever. She never displays that power, but she enjoys it. She practices it. She makes the fellow think that he is powerful, even though he is not. He depends on her. You can see this if, in the case of a husband and wife, where the husband has been very authoritarian to her, to children, if one day the wife passes away, she dies before him, you will see he becomes miserable because he realizes how dependent he was and nobody cares for him, and within 2 years this fellow will die. Whereas if this kind of man dies first, you will see the lady suddenly will start living again. She will live happily for another 20 years, enjoy life and go. So women have a natural ability to develop and maintain relationships. That's why every Indian mother becomes the firewall between the husband and the children, between the father and the children. Women talk to build rapport. They make connections. They discuss personal topics like relationships, feelings, and past experiences. Women take turns in communicating. Women tend to be indirect, but they are tactful. They use more courtesy words. Women accomplish tasks by building relationships first. The female communication pattern and traits tend to be nurturing, indirect, and respectful. What happens to nonverbal communication? Considering nonverbal communication, women gain an upper hand over their male counterparts. Women interpret nonverbal communication better than men. Men are less comfortable with making eye contact. For example, women can make an eye contact. It has something to do with the dominance, power, and status. Direct eye contact is a sign of emotion. That's what our culture thinks. So the less eye contact shared, the less emotion, more power. In terms of gestures, postures, and facial expressions, results appear to be mixed. But basically, men and women use gestures, postures, touch, and facial expressions differently. For example, women tend to smile and use facial expressions much more than men do. That is the reason when you take all the classical dances of India, most of the dancers are women. Men are exception because women know how to use the body language. Now let us look at the workplace because that's what is important for every woman today. Let's see how men and women behave in the workplace. You see, we educate our girls, we educate our daughters but we don't give them the space and freedom to grow up. So what we do is, once she finishes the studies, we put restrictions on the girl, not on the boy. I know parents who have let, as they comfortably say, I have let my daughter study engineering, but once she finishes engineering, she's not allowed to go to other cities for a job interview. She takes job interview in the same city. So you're not giving her the freedom. And if I ask one of the parents, what happens tomorrow if she marries and the guy is in Ahmedabad and she as an engineer will go and work in Ahmedabad? Typical Indian answer. Oh, then that is the problem with the boy and his family. We are not worried about. India will never improve at all. We talk about Shakti, but we don't respect it. Men go to temple, do Devi Upasana. They worship all the goddesses there, come back home, and they don't treat the women at home properly. Let us look at the workplace. Men talk to negotiate and maintain their status and independence. Women talk to create intimacy and build rapport. Women tend to participate more in exercises and games during training sessions. Men tend to shy away. You see all these training sessions the corporate people will offer, throwing a ball, giggling at each other, saying, my name is Ganeshan, ha, ha, ha. Other person takes the ball and says, my name is Namita, ha, ha, ha. You'll see mostly women enjoy these activities. Men do it, but not very happily. Women enjoy sharing and relating the quality of relationships, whereas men place a high priority on tasks, getting results, and solving problems. When speaking to men, let us say, I want to work with you today. That impresses him. As a lady, you tell him, oh, I want to work with you today. Don't tell him, I will help you today. His ego is hurt. He doesn't want help and direction. Women are more likely to accept help, but they ask for it indirectly. Women use more words to express themselves and communicate more what is on their minds through stream of consciousness delivery. If you don't know what is stream of consciousness, ask the professors of English literature. Men tease and use more sarcasm, especially regarding sensitive issues, apologize less often, confront issues less frequently, and disclose less personal information than women. Men and women give off different body language signals. Men don't share as many facial expressions or reactions as women. Men frown or squint more than listening, don't provide as much eye contact, while women prefer more face-to-face eye contact. Men sit further away, they fidget, they shift their bodies and lean back more than listening than women do. Observe the men when they are sitting in a meeting. If a woman nods during a staff meeting, everyone thinks she's agreeing with them. Doesn't mean she's agreeing with them. She's only telling herself, okay, idiot, keep on talking and thinking. While this must be true, this may be true, it may also mean that she is processing the information and is nodding to show understanding. It doesn't mean agreeing. Men, on the other hand, are nodding to show agreement. Women are more in tune to the body language and tone of the other party. Men don't share as much facial expressions. It's sometimes hard to tell if a man is agreeing with you or he is not agreeing. Both women and men like power. Men tend to seek it at all costs, while women will assume power when it is granted to them. Women are more empathetic to the problems of their co-workers. Men don't have that kind of patience. The men will jump in and offer advice. Women, more than men, focus on personal issues when criticizing others. This is what men call as the gossiping women. Women love to exchange information on personal information about other people. This is more out of sympathy and empathy and not necessarily, is a negative kind of thinking. It is, of course, a little bit of curiosity also, inquisitiveness about other human beings. A nice term for that is women have more anthropological hunger than men do. Men would prefer any day drinking. Women tend to seek advice, input, and consensus from others. Men often would prefer to make decisions independently. Men make decisions quicker than women. That's what we will say. Women seek advice. They seek input. They want consensus from others. That's why they need more time to take decisions. Whereas men can be very impulsive and take quick decisions. Men tend to promote themselves more and brag about their accomplishments. You'll always see men bragging about their salvation. I did this, I did that, I accomplished that, I achieved this. Women don't use those kind of sentences. They will tell you about their accomplishments, they will tell you about their achievements, and you will feel impressed about it. It is very, very important. Interruptions are generally tolerated more by women than men during a conversation. In a conversation or a discussion, if you interrupt a man, he will become aggressive. Whereas a woman will smile, step back, and say, okay, buddy, you talk. It's all right. I'll wait. You see all these so-called debates on the television where nobody lets anybody to talk. And there also you will see it is mostly the men who are very impatient, whereas women always sit, they keep on smiling, and when they get a chance, they speak. Men hesitate to ask for help and direction because they think that means insecurity. Whereas women are more likely to ask for and also accept help because for them, it is not a feeling of insecurity, it is a feeling of a strength that they are in a position to ask for help when they need it. Men are straightforward in their deliberations, and women will normally tend to soften the blow by focusing on what the person is emotionally doing also. If they are working on a project, for example, in corporate companies, a woman and a man, you will see if the project fails, the lady will internalize it and think to herself, oh, this was my fault. On the other hand, the man would externalize it and he will blame everybody else and he will not take the responsibility. If both of them as a team are successful, the lady would externalize it and happily say, well, we both did it. We both were successful. Whereas the man will smile, nod his head, but at the same time, he'll be thinking, internalizing it, thinking, well, we were a team, but I was a great guy. None are focused on the outer world. The small talk often revolves around topics related to business, sports, weather, politics, and news. Whereas women like to focus on the inner world of personal issues, of what is going on inside the other people. What are the emotions of the other person? What are the problems? And what is the conflict they are fighting with? That is the reason you will see that most of the Indian women love to sit in front of the television and and keep watching all these serials where you come to know the problems and conflicts of all kinds of people. And no wonder tomorrow if you're in the metro station, two ladies are talking to each other. One lady says, what happened? Did Sudhakar get the job or not? The other lady says, oh, he took his 10th interview, nothing happened. Then the other lady says, what happened to Kamini? Did the boys, family agree to, marry? And there's, no, the boys' family is asking for too much dowry. And do you think they are talking about their children? No. They are talking about the people in the TV serials. Men will not watch serials. They want to watch cricket match because it's a power. The more we are aware of all the differences, the more successful we will be in communicating to get our message out in a clear and understandable manner. Earlier, women used to be much more quiet and passive in the workplace due to the relatively small number of female employees in comparison to males. It is also because they were always conditioned. Maunam sarvatra shobhanam. And they say silence is the best communication, silence. And most of the Indian arranged marriages, they are done because the girl keeps quiet and doesn't say, I don't like the boy. She keeps quiet and say, oh, she's keeping quiet. That means she likes the boy. That is the interpretation made by the family. Women today behave differently, and it's very, very difficult for most of the men to accept and digest it. Women are educated, they think independently, even if they don't show it openly. They have the self-respect, they have self-pride, they have self-confidence, and you will see today women have started assuming top positions by using all their intelligence, their talents, and their capacity to organize things. Actually, men are today jealous of this beauty power, even in the corporate sector. But you see, in the corporate sector, earlier, women were employed. Even if you think of private banks, many young girls were there employed, not for their grammar, but for their glamour. But today, situation is changing. Whether they like it or not, men have to accept once and for all that women are marching up the corporate ladder confidently with full speed ahead. And therefore, it is not the question of emancipating the woman, they are already emancipated. It's a question of emancipating the Indian men. As long as we don't emancipate the Indian men, and we need not empower them, we have to depower them, that will take care of the empowerment of women. But this has to start at home. So if you are a parent, even if you are a teacher, you are a parent, ask yourself, how are you treating your daughters at home? What kind of language are you teaching? What kind of language are you allowing them to talk? What kind of language do you use with your female colleagues, and what kind of language do you use with your men? So women have to become aware of their rights and start using it. And if you but keep on saying, no, 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 how can I hurt the other people's feelings? It is a question of respecting people. All this is said in one American word, bullshit. The Indian word for that is cow dung. It's very important that we accept life is changing, times are changing. Not only workplace is changing, even the private life at home is changing. Now I know men have learned a very, very bitter lesson at home during the lockdown. Now they could realize how difficult it is to run a home. Now let us look at the private life at home for a few minutes. How are these differences seen in marriage, for example? In the ways women and men communicate. Women tend to be the relationship specialists and men tend to be task specialists. So the family will buy a washing machine. The lady is an electronics engineer. The man is a chartered accountant. You think the man will allow the lady to fix the washing machine? No, no, no. He is the task specialist. He will tell, हाँ एक काम करेंगे मशीन तो आ गया ना ठीक है जब मैं ऑफिस से वापस आऊंगा तब उसको कनेक्ट करेंगे. Why can't she do it? She is an electronics engineer. No. Women are experts in rapport talk. They can conduct different types of communication. They have to strengthen relationships. They should have the skills of talking, nurturing, emotional support, empathy, and all. Men will take care of their tasks and they will ask questions. They'll be very factual. They are experts in what is called report talk, which refers to the types of communication that analyzes issues and solves problems. Report talk reflects skills of being competitive, lacking sentimentality, analyzing, and focusing aggressively on task accomplishment. These differences can create specific and commonly experienced misunderstandings between the partners in a family. Some men know how to communicate. Look at Shakespeare. He laid down lines of verse, wrote in iambic pentameter, and dashed off masterpieces of literature. But unfortunately, most men aren't so sophisticated as Shakespeare. Ladies can do it better. They can understand Shakespeare better. They can use also Shakespeare better. that grunting, mumbling heap of man slumped on your sofa may not be Shakespeare, but is perfectly capable of carrying on adult conversation. India is a country where you get free advice from everybody. And free advice is given to you by people who know nothing about what they are talking about. Your panwala will tell you whether your son should study MBA or engineering. Your uncle who has never left a small town will tell you whether you should go and continue your studies in Australia or in Austria and or in Canada. So we are a country where we give free advice. That is because we say Vasudhaiva Kudumbakam. Entire world is my family, so you are my family. I can interfere in your affairs. So let me give you also a free advice this afternoon, particularly to my lady friends, how to handle your man at home. Number one, don't be too emotional. Ask a man always about cricket or politics, and he will give you a big lecture on what he thinks. And then tell him you want to go to shopping. Ask a man what is in his heart. He will not talk much. He won't tell you his emotions. You have to understand men are not raised to know and acknowledge their feelings. In the case of Indian man, the best person who knows his feelings is not his wife, but his mother. She knows him. She knows his feelings much better than he himself. Men are cut off from emotions. When a lady has a serious issue with a man and decides to talk to him about it, you will see during the course of the talk, it's a lady who will end up crying and screaming. The fellow will keep quiet. That's his strategy. To communicate effectively with a man, this show of emotion is a bad idea. So never be emotional with a man. When you're discussing with him, when you're fighting with him, never cry in front of him. It creates an emotional short circuit in him. Men find the emotional outbursts of women as something threatening and dangerous. A better strategy would be for you to get clear on what you want to accomplish. First, before starting the talk, take a walk. Talk to your girlfriends. Then in a cool manner, start a discussion. Tell him he has to remain cool. Don't raise your voice. Be assertive and don't get too emotional. Number two, don't take offense to a man who is still sitting in his cave, like in the Middle Ages. If a man is comatose on the sofa, silently staring at the TV screen and showing as much life as a piece of furniture, don't be alarmed. This is the normal behavior of a man. Men can just hibernate. They can just zone out in a vegetative style anytime, anywhere. Now, this kind of silence can drive you as a woman crazy. Because you ask yourself, I'm discussing something with him. The fellow doesn't open his mouth. He doesn't say anything. He keeps on staring at the TV. Once in a while, he looks at me. What is he thinking? What is wrong? Why doesn't he say something? So you will scream, why don't you say something? Can't you say something? He has won the match. Please don't worry. 99% of the time, he is not thinking about you. He is probably thinking of himself. And men withdraw themselves once a problematic discussion starts. They will become introverts. That is why, interestingly, we talk about a cave man and not a cave woman. Number three, don't be critical. Say you're out for dinner and your partner is inappropriately looking at other women in the restaurant. And is very mechanical, like a robo in his interaction with you. You are hurt. You are threatened. And so later on, you lash out, calling him rude, inconsiderate, lots of other choices things. No question, he deserves it. But by hurling this kind of criticism at him, he immediately gets defensive. Perhaps even starts tossing criticisms like hand grenades right back at you. Soon you find yourselves in a full-blown argument. Instead of pointing fingers at him, talk first about how the experience made you feel. Then ask him not to do it again. If you make your criticism the form of a polite warning instead of an accusation, the man is more likely to listen and comply. The best thing you should do is, if he starts looking at other women and starts praising them, saying they are very beautiful, you do the same thing. You look at the other man there and say, don't you think he is more handsome than you? Do it for some time and then see what happens. Number four, don't talk too much. Any discussion on the problem of communicating with men cannot leave this issue out. Generally, people perceive that women talk a lot and they are very overwhelmed. In fact, men feel very afraid to say anything once the lady starts talking. He's overwhelmed because he thinks if he says one word, it is going to trigger off another big volcano from her. And you see, that is why it's called mother tongue. It's not called father tongue. It's called mother tongue because in most of the families, father never gets a chance to speak. So when the women start talking too much, most of the men will not say much because they know the best strategy is to keep quiet. They'll give only brief answers. The man will let the lady know he is interested in what she is saying, but he will refuse to add to the conversation. Number 5, don't initiate important discussions when you are outside on the way, particularly when he is driving a car. This may seem simple, but follow this advice and you will save yourself lots of headaches. There are a lot of Indian couples who are screaming arguments in your car. The reason for these arguments, lack of eye contact. When driving, your eyes are glued to the road and not to the person in the passenger seat or not to the person sitting in the back seat. Misunderstanding can happen easily. Effective communication involves eye contact. And you know, many of the Indian ladies have this interesting, I'm not bad because I'm careful in my words, they have this interesting habit of sitting at the back in the back seat and giving him directions when he's driving. Do this, don't do this, turn left. There's a car coming, there's a scooter coming. The interesting thing is the lady doesn't know driving. She can only drive you mad. And this creates a lot of problems. Some men also do it. When the ladies are driving, he will do the rounds because he thinks she can't drive, he has to give instructions. So best thing is for both of you, keep quiet. Whenever somebody is driving your car, you just keep quiet. After all, you don't get up when you are on your flight from Hyderabad to Delhi and walk to the pilot and tell him how you should fly. You don't do it to your engine driver in a train. So learn that kind of patience. Number 6, don't make assumptions. No doubt differences exist between the genders, but don't make them out to be huge obstacles for a relationship. With few adjustments, you can learn to understand those differences and communicate just fine despite them. Sure, talking frankly with each other and discussing feelings is something very, very important because using a language does not mean having a lot of vocabulary, knowing high-flown phrases. Using the language also means that not only you know the language, you know how to use it, where to use it, and where not to use it. If you don't know that, then there are going to be problems in the communication. We can talk a lot about cross-cultural communication. That's a very interesting topic. I'll talk to you about that if they invite me again. But what is important is I want to conclude by giving you some simple examples of using the language. I'll give you some 3 or 4 examples. Number 1, when I learned my Hindi, I learned phrases. But it took me quite some time to understand how the phrases are to be used. There's a simple phrase called Aapki Dua Hai. Now in North India, when an old man tells a young man, अरे बेटा सुना तुमको एग्जाम में फर्स्ट रैंक में निकले, आपकी दुआ. The old man tells a young man, अरे बेटा सुना तुमको बढ़िया नौकरी मिली, 1 लाख है तनख्वाह महीने का, आपकी दुआ. The old man tells him, अरे बेटा सुना तुम्हारी शादी होने वाली है, लड़की बहुत खूबसूरत है, आपकी दुआ. The old man tells the young man, अरे बेटा सुना तुम्हारा बेटा हुआ. You cannot say आपकी दुआ है. The South Indian has to learn it. There was a Gujarati lady walking in New Jersey, pre-winter time. There was a lot of snow and she slipped and fell down. It was pre-Christmas time. She didn't know English. When she fell down with her back, she screamed loudly, "Hi, Merry Kismat!" Because an American was passing by, he smiled and said, "Merry Christmas to you, brother." Third story, there was an old man who came to visit his children in the US. One day he said, yes, some pain in the heart. So they called 911. The ambulance came. The Indian family told the ambulance, Americans, to take the man to the hospital, and they said, we'll follow you. The ambulance started, the car followed. After 500 meters, the ambulance turned around. The Americans brought the old man back home and left him at home. Family said, what are you doing? We told him to take you to the hospital. The American said, madam, we can't take a patient to the hospital if he doesn't want to go. I said, what? The American said, this man very clearly, repeatedly told us he wants to go home. He doesn't want to go to hospital. I said, what? How did he tell you that? He doesn't even know English. The American said, what happened? You know what happened? The old man was in the ambulance. He got panicky. He thought he was going to die. And he started chanting his prayer. He went on saying, Hari Om, Hari Om, Hari Om, Hari Om, Hari Om. The Americans heard Hari Om. So they brought him back. Last one is a cat walking with kitten. All communication. Suddenly a dog comes, big dog, barks at them. They get afraid. They go and hide in a hole. The kitten was shivering. The mother cat says, don't worry, I'll take care of it. You know what? The dog cannot enter the hole. It's sniffing around. The mother cat goes near that hole, doesn't come out. The dog is sniffing around outside. The mother cat suddenly makes this sound, bow, bow. The dog gets afraid and runs. Mother cat turns to the kitten and says, see, that is the advantage of learning foreign languages. If you want to be part of the globalized world today, if you want to communicate with the world, start learning foreign languages. Thank you all very much for your patience. I do hope that my talk has at least proved one thing, that I am the best Indian son, brother, husband, father, and also a teacher. Thank you very much. And if any questions, I'm willing to answer the questions.
Thank you, Professor Ganeshan. This is Dr. Kumkum Ray, and as head of the department at Amity School of Languages, Lucknow, I thank you profusely. Your words were so powerful that one was jumping from one thought to the other. But they were also real. It threw me back, and I thought, what a veteran you are. Not only with the power of language, but with the power of experiences adding to the language. So thank you so much, Professor Ganeshan, and a very happy Eid to you. Although we are all homebound and we are not embracing each other for Eid, but all my good wishes to you, your family, and
thank you
around. But you made a wonderful use of not only words, but a lot of your experiences will go a long way to help men realize the power of women, and also young men and women will realize how to hold their tongues and use their words to their advantage. Thank you so much, Professor Ganeshan.
Thank you.
I mean, I am short of words, but this was a veteran's.
Thank you.
This was a veteran's speech, Dr.
If you will allow me, can I add something?
Yes, sure.
For those of you who would like to get in touch with me, I want to give you my email address. It is one single word, all small written, the language German and my name Ganeshan put together, germanganeshan@gmail.com. If you have any questions, anytime about language, literature, life, anything, you can write to me and let's keep in contact. You will find me also on the Facebook. Look for German Ganesh, drop the AN, not German Ganeshan, German Ganesh, and make sure you remember my face so that you talk to the right fellow on the Facebook. Otherwise, I'll be jealous. On the Facebook, you also find a group called Students of Ganeshan. You're welcome to join the group. Some 700 students of mine from all over the world, they're all there. They are actively interacting with each other. And one more thing I want to add you, because we are going through difficult times. Anytime you feel a little down or depressed or feel negative, go to Facebook, look for a page. There is a page called Swami Dukhananda. Swami Dukhananda. Look for the page. You'll find some interesting philosophical, spiritual messages there that may cheer you up. If you want to meet Swami Dukhananda, you need not do anything, because Swami Dukhananda has just now spoken to you. I am Swami Dukhananda. Thank you very much. I wish each and every one of you whatever you wish for yourself. Thank you.
Sir, I want to add something.
Professor Ganeshan, but I have a little bit of a request, that why must we lose our Indian Ganesh to a German Ganesh?
Oh, I'll tell you why. Because I am a professor of German.
Sure.
You see, I'm a professor of German, and if you are talking about my living abroad now, I can tell you, I am a professor of German. I finished my studies in Germany in 1975 after 8 years. I'm born in 1947. मैं तो real देशभक्त हूँ, not like many of the bhakts today. And I decided to come back to the country. I served this country for 32 years successfully. The country gave me everything, and I used to go to Germany very often, sometimes as visiting professors. In 2007, I went to United States of America, not because to look for a job or to make a career, because my wife was a special educator, and a school in Atlanta invited her to come and teach there. She used to work with mentally handicapped children. She went in 2002. I was busy with my work in 2007 here. In 2007, it's good you all speak Hindi, so I can tell you this. I told myself, जैसे आप लोग हिंदी में बोलते हो ना, जहां राम है वहां सीता के लिए अयोध्या है. वो आजकल के बच्चे को पूछे तो बोल रहे हैं जहां राम है वहां सीता के लिए वनवास है. वो तो गलत है. तो जहां राम है वहां सीता के लिए अयोध्या है. 2007 I told myself, जहां मेरी उषा है वहां मेरा अटलांटा है. उसी वजह से मैं उधर गया. और unfortunately my wife was diagnosed with cancer in 2008. They gave her 6 months. She lived 3.5 years and she died in Atlanta. Because she fell ill, we had to get some money. Even though I'm vegetarian, as you say in good English, somebody has to bring the bacon to the table. So I started teaching German and also Hindi in the US. I have 2 daughters. The elder one is assistant professor of Spanish linguistics at the Ohio University. The other one is a HR trainer in a corporate company, and both of them are living in the US. They don't have a mother also now, and that is the reason why I am also hanging around in the US.
Wonderful, wonderful.
If you want German Ganesh, if you want Mahan Bharat to get back German Ganesh totally, you could try something. Tell the people it's possible to offer him a Bharat Ratna. He may come back, or even a Paramveer Chakra is fine.
Yes, sure. Sure. Thank you so much. That was really an Eid spent well.
I know you meant it well. I know. No problem. So I'll be very happy to give some more talks for your students, but it's the ball is in your court now. Okay?
Thank you. We will take that opportunity. We will take that opportunity forward. We will definitely take that opportunity.
Sure, ma'am. Sure, ma'am.
Okay.
So we have few gentlemen in our this session. In this session, they are asking few questions.
Sure. I'm waiting.
Yeah, they are asking, while talking a woman, which thing should we keep in mind?
Is it a man who is asking?
Yes.
See, yeah, okay. While talking to a woman, what are things to be kept in mind? Okay. I thought I elaborately told the man what all they should keep in mind. sorry, I told elaborately the women what all they should keep in mind when they talk to men. Right? Every coin has got two sides. So I would suggest to this gentleman, turn around the coin and then you will know the answer yourself.
Wonderful.
What is the next question?
Another question is, everyone doesn't mean to hurt a woman, but sometimes she misunderstood.
Yes.
How to handle those situations?
Yes. First of all, if somebody hurts you, this can happen in the family, this can happen in the workplace. The first thing you have to develop is you have to smile. You must be very composed and don't, first of all, don't feel hurt. But we are all human beings. Chubega, you will feel hurt. But then don't show that you're hurt. If you show that you're hurt and start a discussion, it's going to be useless. So be calm, smile at the person. Even though you're hurt, you say, look, you have said something. Say it with a big smile. Nicely, as the teenagers will say. Smile and say, look, you have just now said something. I don't know whether you understand it, but it has hurt me a lot. Maybe it was your thought, maybe it was your choice of words. Do you mind if I sit down and talk about it? And tell the person, this is what you said, this is how I understood it. Then the moment you do that, you will see the other person will be listening to you, you can sort it. But what happens very often is we are doing two mistakes. One is we don't understand what the other person is thinking. We are thinking on our own. Second thing is we try to think for the other person. And that is wrong. That you should not do. This is another Indian habit here. You always think for the other person. See, I'll tell you, you want to apply for leave. Now, do you really apply for leave immediately? No. You will discuss with your friends or family or work colleagues and you will say, अरे मुझे तो 4 दिन की छुट्टी चाहिए मगर तुमको तो मालूम है ये मैनेजर जो है ना वो तो बेवकूफ है वो तो लीव नहीं देगा ना अप्लाई करके क्या फायदा है this negative thinking you don't apply. A German or American will say what the hell it's his job to consider my application. He will apply. Once the fellow says no, yes, then he will say, well, I asked for leave, the manager didn't give. But what you are doing is you're already assuming he's not going to give leave. Your thinking is negative. So any misunderstanding, you should have the courage to sit and talk about. India, the problem is we don't talk about problems. We push them away. You go to any Indian government office, you have a big problem, you stand there. What does the other fellow tell you? You tell him his problem. What problem, sir? What, sir? There is no problem. Whenever an Indian tells you there's no problem, that means there's a big problem. He doesn't want to deal with it. So this is what I would do. But if you keep quiet, you don't discuss it, you feel hurt. Ultimately, you will have to pay a lot of money to a corporate hospital like Apollo because you will get ulcer. Next question.
So we are running out of time, but I want to ask a question from my side too. Just a question. Like, I want an advisor in which manner a woman should ask for an advice to a man so that he won't think that she's seeking his help, not his advice.
Okay. I would prefer not to give a public answer to this question. Okay? So you
Okay.
write to me and we will interact and I will guide you so that you can handle any man on this earth, including me. Don't worry. That's what. No? Okay? Right. So all the best.
Thank you, sir. I'll share your information to all the attendees, your email address, which you have just said. And thank you so much. Thank you so
And
much.
if you are uploading the video, let me know and send me also a copy of the app.
Definitely,
Okay.
definitely, sir.
All the best
I
to all
hope
of you.
everyone here has enjoyed it.
Thanks to everyone.
We are getting so many questions, but I think you can reply it privately as well
Send
because
me
we are
questions
running out
by
of
email.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Send me the
sure.
question by email. I'll answer them. No problem.
Sure, sir.
Right. Thank you.
Once again, thank you so much from the Amity family.